Well, hello, welcome to another episode of Jim's Allotment. Today it's a bit blustery and wet and cold, and it's not so nice outside, but there's plenty to do in the greenhouse, and I have managed to do some rotavating. So, welcome to another episode of Jim's Allotment Garden. Okay, so just a few pointers on rotavating. I apologise for the wind already, it's a little bit windy today, so if there is a bit of distortion on the sound, then I do apologise. But I just want to quickly show you, whilst I've got the rotavator on the plot, I just want to show you basically how to do it. Now, as you see at the front here, these are the basically the rotors which are basically going to dig the ground. So they go through the ground and they're moving this way. So they're going to want to tend to pull the rotavator forward. Behind it you have this pole here, which is basically like an anchor. So basically you control the rotavator by this anchor here. Now if your rotavator hasn't got an anchor, then either make one or find one, because without this you're not going to be able to control it, and you're likely to hurt your back. Now there's no end of people that I know that have damaged their backs using rotavator, so it's you know, it's well worth you know, sort of setting it up properly. And the length of this will largely depend on how deep you want to dig yourself and what your soil's like. If you've got a reasonably loose soil like I have here, you're going to want to have that reasonably deep, because basically that's what's stopping it from moving forward. If you have reasonably hard soil, or sort of heavy soil, then you can have it a little bit shallower. So basically, to control the rotavator, you want basically what you want to do is have the top of this blade at ground level or just slightly below it. So that's what you're aiming to do. And as you're moving forward, if you want the rotavator to move forward, what you do is you lift the handles up, which is pulling the anchor out of the ground, if you like, which will allow the thing to pull itself forward. As soon as it starts to move forward, you want to put it back down. Now, what you might need to do, if the soil's particularly wet like mine is today, is slightly walk the rotavator. So what you need to do is pull it slightly to one side, and then it'll allow one side of the rotor to climb up out of the hole, if you like, or at least try to climb out of the hole. As soon as it's moved forward, then you put the anchor back down, and then it'll hold it in that position to dig the next piece of ground. Now, if you've used a rotavator and you've got a backache at the end of it, the chances are you're not doing it properly. Obviously, you know, if you have got a back complaint, then you know, that's a given. You know, you might get some sort of aching in your lower back. But basically, what you need to do is let the rotavator do the work for you. Don't try and push it and pull it too much. Let the let the rotors pull it for you. So if you want to go around a corner, keep it powered, and then give yourself plenty of room, because what you don't want to do is catch any slabs or stones or anything with the rotors, because it'll potentially make it kick, and obviously you could potentially damage the rotavator as well. So as I say, it's quite simple. You know, if you've never done it before, don't sort of shy away from it. All you need to do is get it started, and then as soon as you've got it started, what you need to be doing is let it dig itself into the ground. So basically you're holding the anchor down, so you're pushing the handles down so that the anchor's hard in the ground, and then the rotors will start to turn and dig directly down. As soon as they've dug directly down and the blades are in deep, as deep as you want them to be, then all you got to do is pull the anchor out, and the rotavator will start to move forward. Do it gradually like that, because it can sort of go away with itself. And don't have the rotavator on too sort of fast. You only want to do it slowly. It's much better to rotivate slowly and sort of do it properly than try to do it too quickly and sort of scoot over the top and only dig the sort of top 4 or 5 inches. Now, as soon as you've got it moving forward, then all you need to do is put the anchor back down. If you pull the anchor out of the ground, and it's because it's basically dug itself into the ground, what you need to do then is basically turn it on one side like that, or turn it on the other side like that. And basically what will happen is you put in all of the weight of the rotavator on one side, and then that'll dig itself out of the hole. As soon as it's got to the top of the ridge that it's dug, then put the anchor back down, it'll carry on digging. Now there obviously is a sweet spot where if you sort of vary the height of this, it will get to a point where the rotavator just naturally moves forward. And all you've got to do then, as soon as you've found that sort of sweet spot of the height here, basically just keep it at that height, and the rotavator will move slowly forward. So this part here is quite wet, so this isn't what you want. Obviously there's still reasonably large clumps. Now this is basically because the ground is still a little bit wet. We've had some rain this week, and the ground's a little bit wet. When you have rotavated and it's worked properly, what you should have is this. You should have a very, very fine, look at that, it just crumbles in your hand. So that's what you're looking for, basically a fine tilt. So what I've done is I've rotavated the whole thing. Obviously this bit of ground here is slightly drier than over there. Now, as you know, I dug a lot of straw and stuff in here, so you know it is very water retentive anyway, this part now. This is where the potatoes are going. So basically what I've done is I've rotavated the whole thing all the way down the bottom. In fact, I've rotavated most of the plot now, to be honest with you, today and last night. And what I'll do is we are going to have a bit of rain today, which is unfortunate, and tomorrow, but in the week we're going to have a dry spell. So now I've rotavated it, it's brought the ground from underneath, which is wet, to the top, so hopefully that will dry out, and then as soon as that's dried out I'll rotivate it all again, and then it'll break up. But what you should have, I don't know if you can see, but all of this, can you see there's no large lumps, and it's all sort of nice and smooth and nice and level. If after you've rotavated it looks like this, where you've got, you've still got reasonably large lumps and stuff on the surface, that's basically telling you the ground is too wet. Now when I went over this, I went over it quite quickly because I realised that it was wet. So all I want to do, I want to keep the air inside the ground, because that will make it dry out. So all I wanted to do was basically turn it so that the damper stuff is at the damper stuff is at the top, so that the wind that we're having at the minute, which I'm struggling with the mic obviously, that'll help me to dry out the surface. And then when I rotivate it again, the rotavator will put that dry stuff down, and hopefully that'll aid to dry the ground out so I can rotivate it properly. So that's. Well, a quick word of warning about rotavators. Last year I was rotavating down in the tunnel, which is the green tunnel that I've got down the bottom. Now I'm obviously aware of this problem, but I thought with the tunnel, with the airflow going through it, it should be okay. But if you're using a rotavator, obviously you need to realise that these aren't regulated emissions coming from a rotavator. It's just a simple 4-stroke petrol engine, and any petrol engine, what it will give out is actually carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide when it's burning the petrol. So if you're in a tunnel, this carbon monoxide will build up inside the tunnel if there's not sufficient airflow through it. And I was really, I thought the airflow would be okay in the tunnel with it being net, and after a couple of minutes of rotavating, I started to feel quite ill and sort of quite nauseous, to be honest with you. And this is a sign of sort of carbon monoxide poisoning. So if you are rotavating inside either a you know, like a tunnel, whether it be plastic or net, just be really careful that you've got plenty of airflow in there. And to be honest with you, what I've done since is rotavate the ground and then move the tunnel over where you've rotavated. So rotavate in open air, because you know, just be really careful, because there is carbon monoxide coming off your rotavator and lawnmower, etc. So if you are you know, sort of rotavating a piece of ground, make sure that the airflow is you know, is good to take that carbon monoxide away, because you know, it is potentially dangerous for you. Okay, just a few tips on your rotavator or your petrol mower. In fact, they're both the same thing. Obviously, any petrol engine that you've got and any equipment in your garden, at this time of the year you might find they're a little bit reluctant to start. So what you most certainly need to do is the petrol, at the end of the year when you're finished with it, empty the petrol out, because petrol does go stale after a while. So I would strongly advise you drain it out of there. The carburetor also on these smaller engines do contain like a small pot of fuel, so I would advise you empty that as well, because that will go stale in there and can potentially emulsify where it makes this sort of nasty gooey stuff which can stick inside the jet and stuff. So sort of empty it out. And the spark plug, which is located on the top of the engine here, obviously you know, you do get various different ones, but if you find that your rotavator or your lawnmower is reluctant to start, the first thing I would suggest you do is take out the spark plug, clean it up, get a nice wire brush and give it a good clean, put some WD-40 on there and make sure it's nice and clean, and with a little bit of emery cloth just go between the two electrodes in the end and make sure that's nice and clean, and then put it back in and make sure you got a good spark, and then most certainly change the you know, sort of fill it with fresh fuel, fresh petrol, and you know, just allow it to flow through into the carburetor, and then you should find that it will start, unless you've got some problem with the part which generates the electricity for the spark plug, or the fuel in the carburetor is not going through to the cylinder. Really, with a petrol engine, it's quite simple. If you've got fuel and you've got spark, you're going to you know, it will start. So just you know, just make sure that your fuel's right and you've definitely got a spark, and the thing will start. With a lawnmower, it's exactly the same. Obviously, you've got your fuel in your tank here, carburetors here, and you've got your spark plug at the front there. All you need to do is make sure that the spark plug's clean and you've got fresh fuel in there, and obviously the carburetor's primed, and it will start for you. Okay, so moving on to the sweet peas now. I'm going to put in 3 varieties this year. I've got some that I saved from some sweet peas that my father had last year. I'm also going to put in the sweet peas that I saved from the ones I grew last year myself. And I'm also going to put in these, which are these are from Thompson and Morgan, and these are the Royal Air Force Benevolent Fund seeds. So it's always a good you know, it's always a good thing to support the you know, so the Royal Air Force, etc. And these were basically available last year, but in each packet there's only kind of 20 seeds. So I actually bought 2 packs of these, so I've got a tray of them now. With sweet peas, really, you know, you need to sort of plant them reasonably early. Now, you know, it actually recommends on the seed packet that you sow them kind of late March, so we're just about right now. There's a lot of people who actually sow sweet peas sort of earlier on, sort of around sort of January time, but I always tend to leave them till now, because even if they do start to grow, they tend to be stunted anyway, and I've found that other people that have grown them you know, sort of earlier on, if you grow them now, they catch up anyway, so there's not really much point in planting them too early. But basically all I've done, these are some sort of cell type trays. These came from Wilco's, and they're about £1 well, they are actually £1 for, I think, 5 of these, which is ideal because it sits in a normal seed tray, and you know, you're away. The one thing with sweet peas is what you don't want to do is get pot bound. So in each of these cells, I'm going to be putting two of the seeds. So, and basically what I'll be doing is later on in the year I'll be planting these up the side of the tunnels in that. So that's what the sweet pea seeds look like. And a sort of small circular, very much more like peas in fact. So what I'm going to do is basically plant these around sort of 2.5 centimetres, 1 inch deep. So I'm just going to put one in that side, one in that side, and all I'm doing, I don't know if you can see that, I'll just show you again here. All I'm doing is putting one in this corner here, and then pushing it down with my finger. You know, the soil's quite loose in here. What I tend to do is put them both the same way each time, so that you know, I can tell where they're going to come up. Now, these little sort of pods in here, you know, they're more than sort of big enough for 2 sweet peas. I wouldn't really put any more than that, because sweet peas really don't like to be pot bound. You know, you want plenty of soil to you know, for them to grow the roots into. So I'm just putting the last few in there, and by rights I should have just about enough seeds to do this. I might be a few short, so I've just bobbed them down, as I say, about an inch or so. I'm just going to open up the second packet. So these are actually red, white and blue, and they're supposed to be easy to grow, and they're also very fragrant. And if you watch my earlier videos, only was need 4. Oh, they've all come out now. You know, they do make a massive difference. I have had comments in the past, you know, people saying, why do you grow flowers in your allotment? You know, I only grow vegetables. And to be honest with you, I grow flowers. I don't grow a lot of flowers. You know, I do tend to grow flowers around the peripheral of the allotment, where I'm not likely to grow sort of vegetables. And you can always grow them in a quiet corner of your allotment. I mean, sweet peas will grow pretty much anywhere, so as long as you've got something for them to climb up, you know, they will grow away and stuff like that. So even if you just grow them up the side of your compost or your shed, or you know, you can put them potentially amongst your you know, your runner beans or whatever. I tend to grow mine up the side of the tunnel. Now I'm not firming these down too much. All I'm doing is just sort of lightly sort of pressing them down. You know, you want to get all the sort of the air gaps out, if you like, but you don't want to sort of compress the soil too much, you know, so you can get away easily. The reason why I grow flowers, you know, I do grow sweet peas. I do grow a lot of sunflowers, and I do grow calendulas down at the bottom end, and I do grow. I will be growing some other sort of flowers this year for the allotment. Obviously, I grow flowers for the main garden anyway. But it's beneficial because it attracts insects into your allotment, and you know, and these same insects are the ones that are going to be you know, pollinating your other plants. So you know, it's obviously, you know, you want to attract as many insects as you can into your allotment, sort of bees and stuff like that. But so I'm just going to put a label in these, and I'll be giving them a bit of water. Again, as I say, you know, always use tap water to start with when you're doing your seeds. And all I'll be doing is putting those in the greenhouse. You know, so I'll leave them in the greenhouse. What I might do is, if we have a bit of a cold snap, I might put some sort of glass over them just to protect them a little bit. But they'll be happy to sort of germinate and sort of grow on those. So that's basically the sweet peas. And I'll be putting these out into the garden probably at the end of, well, yeah, sort of mid to late May. That's when they'll actually go out into the ground. So you need a compost, which is this isn't a seed compost. This is a normal compost. You need a compost which is going to keep them going up until then. So I'd recommend you use a normal compost, and you need plenty of room in the pot so that the roots can develop in there, and you don't want them to be pot bound, and you don't really want to be potting them on. So put them in a reasonable sized container like this, and then they'll be good until sort of the back at mid May, back end of May, before you put them out into the garden. Okay, so believe it or not, the broccoli is all ready to prick out. It's already sort of going up to 2 inches tall, and when it's ready to prick out, can you see the second leaves starting to come in the middle? That's really a sure sign that you're ready to prick out. Now, these are going to be sitting in the pots now for probably about another month or so before I put them out. So again, you need a reasonable sized pot, and I like to use these pots. Again, these come from Wilko's, and I think they're quite cheap. I think you get about 25-30 for about £1. They're not expensive at all. But the nice thing about these is it gives the plant plenty of room. Plus, obviously you can stack them together sort of quite tightly, and to use maximum room in your greenhouse. Now again, I've got a mixer compost in here. It's half Miracle Grow, which is quite coarse, and I've also got the one that I couldn't remember earlier on. It's called Clover, which is like a sort of peaty type based compost. Now I mix the two 50-50, and I find that that's got enough nutrition and everything in there to keep them going. So basically all you need to do is stick your finger in the middle. The compost isn't too too sort of tight in there. Now the trick with sort of getting these out, to start with, what you might need to do is just get a lollipop stick, and it's always worthwhile having a lollipop stick handy. What you don't really want to do is damage the stalk of the seedling. So just with a lollipop stick, just to start you off, what you want to do is touch the roots but nothing else. That's the way that I tend to do it. Now, as you can see there's a nice little root ball on the bottom. I've made a hole in there, which is about the same size, and all you need to do is just drop him in like that, and then firm the soil down. And what you should end up with, after it's reasonably firmed down, is your seedling in there, and you're almost at the same level as it was when it was in the tray. Obviously planted upright, and so you've got about ½ an inch of space all the way around. The level of the soil is about ½ an inch down from the edge of the pot, and that's ideal. So just to show you again, obviously as soon as you've got the first one out, you can then stick your finger under, but I'll just use the lollipop stick again. So just disturb it slightly with the, I'm not touching the stalk, but all I'm doing is touching the root ball, as you can see, because you can very easily damage the stalks. They're not particularly brittle, but what you can do is damage the stalk. So what you want to do is manoeuvre it in by its root ball, if you like. I don't know if you saw that one then, but that's basically the same as the first one. So I'll just show you one more. So what I'm doing is I'm just sticking my finger underneath, just to release the root ball, and then I'm just grabbing that with my fingers like that. Then you want to make a hole in the compost in here, which is roughly the same size, and then just drop your seedling in, and then just firm round like that with your two thumbs. You don't need to go too firm, just firm enough. Give it a bit of a tap just to make sure you got it in. And basically you just need to do that for each one. And obviously, as I say, these will be in these pots now for about another sort of 4 to 5 weeks. So the one thing with brassicas, what you don't want to do is get them to be put them in a pot that's too small for them, and they'll end up being sort of root bound. Obviously with brassicas you can get problems sort of clubroot and stuff like that. Now obviously having them in a small pot isn't going to cause clubroot. That's a fungal infection that you get in the ground. But one thing that you can find, and this is another thing what I found with square pots as well. This is where there's a slight advantage with that. If you use a round pot, for example, if I pot it up in a pot like that, what you'll find is the roots tend to go round and round and round inside, and what they do is they form like a root ball, and then when you plant it out, the roots tend to just keep going round and round and round and round, and don't sort of go out and get the nutrition out of the ground. What you want is for when you put these in the ground, you know, you want the roots to be sort of at the edge of the pot. So when you put the plant in the ground, it'll send its roots out into the ground and obviously get the nutrition, and also it'll support the plant properly. What you can get is if you have them pot bound, and the roots are sort of going round and round in circles, what happens is the plant doesn't get properly anchored in the ground, and what you can get is the plant falling over. Now, brassicas always like firm ground, so when you plant these out, the ground needs to be firm. So what I've obviously done today is rotavated the ground where these are going to go, and what I'll be doing just before they go in, basically, is walk all over the ground and make the ground really nice and firm. You also want to add lime to the ground. If you've had chicken muck there the year before, what I would suggest is you put a little bit of lime in there. Brassicas don't like the ground to be too acidic; they like it to be limey, you know, sort of alkaline. And so what I would suggest you do is, before you put them in, as I say, what I suggest you do is put some lime on the ground. These are going where the potatoes were last year, so they'll obviously be, the ground is likely to be acidic. And then as soon as you're ready to put them in, as I say, put lime on the ground, and then rake that into the ground. The water will take it down into the you know the lower parts of the the ground anyway, and then walk all over it, rake it again, and then plant these in. And you need, as I say, you need to get these in before they become pot bound, because the roots won't sort of spread out into the ground and anchor them down. And what you can get is them sort of falling over later in the year when they're you know, when they become sort of, brassicas can be a little bit top heavy as a plant, and you need to make sure that the roots get, you know, a good foothold in the ground to support the to support the structure. So that's basically a few quick notes on potting up your broccoli. All of your other brassicas, you know, sort of cabbage, kale, sprouts, all the rest of them, they're all the same, and when they're this age, they all look the same as well, to be honest with you. So pot them all up, and then you'll be ready in a month or so's time to put them out in the ground. When they're ready to go out in the ground, they'll be about probably around about 5 or 6 inches tall, and the leaves will be quite big. You'll know when they're ready to go out. The leaves should be, you know, sort of about that big, and then as soon as the, you know, it's kind of that big, that's when they're ready to go out. But you want to put them out as soon as the frosts are finished, sort of middle to the end of May if you're in the UK. Okay, so anybody that's watched any of my videos in the past, you'll have noticed that during the starting pictures of each of the videos, I have a lot of calendulas in the bottom end of my allotment, which are always sort of orange and yellow. This year I'm going to grow a different variety. I'm also going to be growing the orange ones, don't worry, they'll be down the bottom, but I'm also going to mix in between them some Calendula Pink Surprise. Now these are by Sutton Seeds, and these are really easy plant to grow. To be honest with you, you don't really need to grow these inside, but the reason I'm doing it like this is basically I want to be able to sort of determine where these sort of pretty coloured ones are. They're sort of like a, I don't know, sort of like a crab sort of pinky, rusty sort of colour, I suppose, I don't know. But anyway, the seeds are kind of like, I don't know, they look almost like little worms sort of thing. Now what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to grow a couple of trays of these, because I'm also going to give some away to some friends and family. So I find that these little sort of seed modules are quite nice, because 2 of them sit quite nicely into a standard tray, and so you can put them out. Now what I'm going to be doing is putting sort of two or three plants in each one. Now when I plant the orange ones, I literally scatter the seed on the ground, because these things grow like weeds in my garden. I must have the right kind of soil for them, so I'm not going to be too fussy with these whatsoever. All I'm going to do is just sprinkle them on the top. I'm putting sort of 2 or 3 seeds in each of the compartments. You know, you don't want to have too many in each one. I've got kind of 2 or 3 in each one. That's probably about the right. And all I'm going to do is just bob them on the top. And all I do when I'm planting them in the garden directly, all I do is just sprinkle the seed on the ground and then just rake over them. You know, to make sure that they're sort of covered. So that's. Just put a few more if you good look. All I'm going to do now is just gently press them down. And I press them down around, I don't know, about ½ an inch or so. Just making sure that they're in. And all I'm going to do is just sprinkle a little teeny bit of compost over the top of them. You know, you don't need to have these too deep. Now, actually, when I was rotavating last night, I rotavated down the bottom end, which I'll show you in the tour part of the video, or it possibly might be I might release 2 videos this week. And I was actually rotavating these up yesterday. These are just self-setting seeds from last year, and there's a whole patch of them. As I say, they grow like weeds in my allotment. So you know, so most certainly, if you put them outside now, they will most certainly germinate, because they're germinating already in my allotment. So if you do want to put them directly outside, all you need to do, dig the ground so it's a nice sort of loose, you know, sort of tilt. Sprinkle the seeds on the top. Don't put too many because they will all germinate. Just sprinkle them along where you want them, and then just gently rake over again, and give them a bit of water. And trust me, they'll grow. These things will grow anywhere, I think, pretty much. Most certainly in England, anyway. So that's one tray. I'm going to do an identical tray, and then that will give me, obviously, in each one of these is 9 little compartments. So what I'll be able to do is then just pull these out as a clump and plant them in amongst the orange ones, so I get a nice mixture of orange ones and this new colour that I've not tried before. I hope this episode of Jim's Allotment Garden has been of some use to you. Please do put any comments or questions you've got below, and I'll always get back to you. And next week we're going to be doing plenty more things in the allotments. There's plenty more things to go on. So I'll catch you on the next episode of Jim's Allotment Garden. So from me and Dorothy, bye bye.